So I wasn't gonna post a video today because I didn't feel like it, but I'm here doing it anyways. Very discouraged this week. I had some clients that I thought were going to sign up with us, and they're just not confident in themselves just yet. And so that set me back, but I have to learn that, not everybody is ready. They're not ready to move forward. They're not ready to take action. They're not ready to start their imperfect movements, and just making that next step, the next best move that you have. And I watched something today that really helped me to overcome this, because sometimes we get so discouraged that we're like, okay, clearly, I'm setting out to do this thing. I thought I'm going after the thing that God wanted me to do, and going after my calling, and going after my purpose, and all these things, right? And it's really hard when we get hit with opposition. We get hit with those brick walls. We get hit with what we think is there to stop us, and we're like, okay, God, clearly you're putting this in my path because you don't want me to move forward. You don't want me to keep going after this thing. You don't want what I'm doing to be fulfilled. And that's not at all what happens. We know from the Bible that when you go after something, disruption happens afterwards. There was a great teacher that was talking today, and I love what he was saying about the fact that, yeah, you see, disruption. So he was saying that, Joseph shared his dream with his family. He shared his dream with his brothers, and what happened? He got thrown in a pit because they didn't like what he had to say. They didn't like the dream that he had, because it wasn't meant for them, right? But because he shared that, he had hit opposition. He had to go into slavery. He had to get sold. He had to deal with all of the things that he dealt with Potiphar's wife. Like, it took him so many years to get back out of that dungeon, to get to where God was planning for him. Was there another possible way for it to happen? Maybe. If he kept his mouth shut, if he didn't say anything. But if he didn't say anything, if he didn't get started, would it have actually been fulfilled? If he didn't start going into the purpose that God was showing to him directly, like, he had a dream, and this dream was for him, and he knew it was for him, and he knew it was a prophetic word for him. And so he started sharing that dream, and like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is how, but he didn't know what that was going to look like, right? He just shared what the dream had, right? And just because he shared it is what got him into the opposition. But that doesn't mean that opposition was there to just take him down to the pit. Imagine if he didn't have those humbling moments. Imagine if he didn't have that opposition stop him. Would he have been able to be as successful as he was when he hit the top, when he was given the position that he had? He had been through all these different scenarios. He had dealt with all these different experiences up until that point, which gave him that upper hand to deal with all of the things that he was meant to deal with once he got that position filled. And he came into that purpose years later, right? God gave him that dream. It was how many years later before he was actually given the position to manage Egypt? How many years was that? A lot. It was a lot of years. Same thing when you dealt with Moses. When you're looking at Moses, what happened? Moses was out in the wilderness because he was at that burning bush, and God told him, you're going to go and do this. He's like, but I can't talk, and I can't do my thing, and I can't do this stuff because I'm not good enough. I can't. No. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So what does that actually mean? Well, when you're dealing with opposition, when you're dealing with issues where you're hitting brick walls over and over again, that doesn't mean that you're supposed to quit. And that is the hardest thing, because almost every other week I feel like I'm a broken record. Not all things are going to come to fruition the way that you feel they're going to come to fruition. They're just not. And dealing with ADHD and dealing with the things that are like ruminating. Okay, yes, we have these issues of rumination. Yes, we get to the point where we just put ourselves in our own pit. But does that mean that we're supposed to be quitting, or that we're supposed to just give up and go on to the next thing? No, we're supposed to be refining. We're supposed to be refining and going back to God and saying, okay, God, if this isn't the exact direction, like I know I'm on this path, you are not going to feel, you're not going to feel fulfilled in life unless if you're going after the purpose that God has called you to do. You can have like 1 out of the 5 things done, or 5 out of the 6 things accomplished, but that one thing is your calling and making it a part of your life. So, you know, we get into this rumination and I keep getting stuck, right? Stuck. But we have to keep going back. Okay, I know you called me to do this thing. I don't exactly know what it is. We have to be ready to submit to that calling before maybe we even understand all of that calling. We have to say, okay, God, I don't know exactly what this calling is. I know I'm on the right path to getting there, but I am not 100% sure what you are actually calling me to do. So help me. I'm laying my plans out. I'm committing to what you are telling me to do, despite knowing what it is you're telling me to do, right? Sometimes we're like, but I don't know who my purpose is for. I don't know what my calling is after. I don't know these things, right? But I just know I'm really passionate about this. I have all these skills for that. Like, all these skills are great, and knowing how to own them and hold them and be able to implement them is huge, right? Like, sometimes we just need to have somebody to be accountable to. Sometimes it's beneficial to allow someone from the outside to look at all that you offer and take all of those points in and say, you know what, this is what you're needing to do. This is where you're lacking. This is where there's some gaps in your purpose, in your calling. And that is where it's so great to have that accountability. Are you all done? So I say all that to say, don't be discouraged. Don't let those opposition moments of where you feel like you're hitting a brick wall, feels like you failed again and again and again, you keep failing. It's like, no, okay, what did I learn from this scenario? What did I learn from dealing with that opposition, from dealing with that brick wall? How can I apply what I've learned to the next step and the next step? And how can I make it happen where I'm going to fulfill what God has called me to do? On to the next.